Hello again, welcome back to our channel. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a lovely November afternoon here, and we're thinking about our dahlias. Dahlias are a wonderful flower for putting in your garden and having them flowering in late summer and early autumn. In front of me I've got a little bunch of dahlias. Now these dahlias are not out of the house or anything, they're just some that I've picked up out off the ground. They're not supposed to look great, but even so they do give you an idea of just how beautiful and how varied dahlias can be. They're some of our most favourite flowers, and this afternoon we're just sharing with you some of our ideas about growing dahlias. Now we grow our dahlias from tubers, and we plant the tubers in the ground in late spring or early summer. So we normally think about maybe sort of late May, beginning of June, that sort of time. Because dahlias do not like being frosted, and you have to be very careful, they are quite delicate. But once you get them established, they grow well and they give a beautiful display. We've got this bed here of dahlias, we've got other areas as well, and we're really delighted with how well our dahlias have performed this year. They've been absolutely fabulous, and they've given us a wonderful display. But now it's time to think about what we're going to do with them over winter. Now when it comes to your dahlias over winter, there are many different things, many different techniques that you can follow. And we're just sharing with you our particular ideas, the things that we do that suit us quite well. One thing that we sometimes do is leave our dahlia tubers in the ground. We will cut the top growth down, but we'll actually leave the tubers in the ground, and we will put a mulch over the top to protect. Here we've got a mulch. This is our compost, our home produced compost. And we can put a mulch of this beautiful compost over the top to protect the dahlias during the winter. Usually it works, doesn't always work. And if we get a really severe winter, if the weather gets really cold, then a lot of them will die. And so we take at least some into the garage each year to try and protect them during the winter. We're going to explain to you how we do that. Here we've got a dahlia, and I want to take this into the garage to protect it, so I'm going to think about what I'm going to do with this dahlia. To begin with, I'm just going to cut off the top growth. I'm just roughly cutting off the top growth. Okay, now what I want to do now, obviously, is to dig the dahlia up and to take it inside. Digging the dahlia up can be a little bit difficult at times, but there's an easy solution. I've cheated! The way that I've cheated is, you can see that I actually planted the dahlia in a pot back in May and put it into the garden like that, so that now at this time it's very easy to actually save it, to take it inside. I simply pull the pot out of the ground. So this dahlia then, if I was going to now take it inside, what I would do is as follows. I would now cut it down lower, tidy it up, take any leaves off, take it down to maybe a couple of inches, something like that. Okay, that looks a lot tidier now. What I would do next is I would actually turn it upside down into a tray, and I would take that now and put it into the greenhouse or the polytunnel and leave it there for maybe a week or two to allow it to really dry out. It's important that it does dry. And then after that time, when it had dried, I would then take the pot and I would put it into our garage, where it's going to be frost free, cool but frost free, and I would put it in a nice dark position. And I might even put something over the top like newspaper or whatever to make sure that it maintained the darkness. I wouldn't want it to be light at all. So that's one way that we do that. Quite a lot of ours that we do in that similar way. You can actually see that there's another pot down here that I've done in exactly the same way. And if I cut the tops off there, you can see again there's a pot there ready to be taken out of the ground. But sometimes we don't put them in pots. Sometimes we put them directly into the ground. And we're just going to share with you the technique that we use when we put them directly into the ground. So this one here, for some reason I didn't put this one into a pot. I don't know whether I ran out of pots or what, but this one isn't in a pot. So I'm thinking about how I'm going to dig this one out and what I'm going to do with it. So let's think about how we're going to treat it. Let's cut off the growth roughly to begin with, like so. And now let's just try and ease it out of the ground. I'm going to be okay, I think. Take it away from behind there. And so we've now got our dahlia here. Now in there, there's obviously some tubers. I'm going to just cut this down a little bit to about that sort of height. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to leave the soil on and I'm going to put it upside down in a tray. And I'm going to leave it again in the greenhouse or in the polytunnel for a week or two for it to dry out. And then when it's dried out, we will then put it into a pot of compost. I'll use dry compost for this, and so when this has dried out I will then transfer it to an individual pot like so, and we'll put some dry compost around the outside and we'll put that into the garage. Sometimes we don't put them into individual pots, sometimes we might put them into a tray. And so we would actually have them maybe 5 in a tray, like so, facing upwards, and we would put the dry compost around them. And so, you know, that's in some respects an easier way of doing it, putting quite a few into a tray rather than putting them into individual pots. So those are just some of the ideas then about how we can protect our dahlia tubers during the winter, what we can do with them. We can leave them in the ground and mulch them, or we can take them out in the pots like we do, which is a really nice, easy, quick way of doing it, or we can dig them out and treat them in the way that we've talked about before putting them into the garage. That's the way we do it. Obviously some people have alternative ways. For instance, some people when they dig the tubers out, they will wash them and dry them off, and then they will put them into net bags or plastic bags or hang them up. All sorts of different ways like that. We've tried that in the past and they work particularly well. They're perfectly okay. It's just that, you know, you tend to use the sort of techniques that you prefer. And what we've explained are the techniques that we tend to prefer. We're doing this now in mid-November. Normally by this time, all the top growth has died off. I wouldn't normally be doing this with the top growth looking like this. We're just doing it now for demonstration purposes. What we would normally do, we'd wait for the frost to kill off the top growth, probably wait a week or maybe even 10 days before then doing the process that we've just been doing now. This is just for demonstration purposes. We'd prefer to leave it for the frost to actually to kill off that top growth before then treating it in the way that we've just done. Hope you've grown some dahlias this year, and if you have, hope that you're able to save a lot of your tubers for next year and that you've got lots to plant out next year. Next May time we'll be planting some of these into the garden. We'll be buying some more tubers as well, because what we plant each year is a mixture of old and new. We always like some new varieties as well as the older ones. And when we're thinking about the new ones that we're going to be putting in, new varieties, there are lots of suppliers online or garden centres that you can get them from. Two of our favourites are Parker's and Woolman's. We get quite a lot of our lovely dahlias from those suppliers. Hope that you do well next year with your dahlias. Thank you so much for watching.